Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today, we are covering 28 Years Later, which came out in 2025. And we previously covered the other two movies. So if you're interested to hear our opinion, you can listen to those.
You did?
Yeah. We did both.
We've done so many. I don't even
I thought that's why we chose 28 Years Later, because we had already done them.
I thought we chose it just because it just came out recently.
Oh, well.
Okay, that's
Anyways.
fine. It works both ways. That's fine.
Yep. But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. So we are drinking the Brutalities, the Waking Ginger or
Walking Ginger Dead. And it's got black tea, rooibos tea, cinnamon bark, orange peels, ginger root, cloves, cardamom, natural gingerbread, and vanilla flavors.
Yum yum. And for our tea sippers out there, brew yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. So, Britain remains quarantined decades after the rage virus, while a small community survives on the island of Lindisfarne.
Sure.
A boy named Spike ventures to the mainland with his parents, facing new forms of the infected and witnessing both tragedy and survival. After losing his mother and encountering the horrors of the outbreak, he ultimately leaves the island alone, heading into the dangerous mainland. Yeah. But, yeah, so for entertainment, this one's a toughie. I had high hopes for it. Like, I thought it was a really cool concept on, like, especially the island, on how they protected themselves. I thought that was really smart.
And how they were only able to access the mainland via a causeway and only at low tide.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But... Well, okay. First, my rating is a 6.5. And the reason being is... Well, it's always really weird. And of course, this movie came out way later after the other two. Mm-hmm. But this movie just has such a different vibe.
It does.
You know, on the one hand, I like that it expands on the lore. Mm-hmm. And there's, like, different types of zombies. And you kind of see how the zombies are surviving without necessarily having, like, as consistent of a human source. Mm-hmm. So, like, a lot of that is really interesting. But they made some very, very strange choices. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I mean, it has been a hot minute since I've seen the other two. But from what I recall, the other two movies didn't bother me as much with the body horror. But for some reason, like, the specific body horror that they showed was, like, extra disturbing for me. Like, just the normal head and a spine just, like, dangling. And then they also showed, like, multiple, like, they showed the zombie, like, pulling animals apart, and you just see, like, the spine, and it's just like, oh, it's very gross. And then the zombies are also, like, kind of sickeningly gross, at least some of them. And then there's, like, a zombie birthing scene.
Yeah.
That was a choice. And then shortly after, there's the scene that everybody's been talking about, where there's
It wasn't after that. It was before then too.
Well, yes, yeah.
But yeah, during that as well.
That one was like
Yeah.
extra bad, just because
Yeah.
they kept showing it. Where
Yep.
the guy's third leg is,
Yep.
yeah.
Dude's a shower too.
I don't know why they made that
It's
choice.
disturbing to see.
I wasn't disturbed. I was just
Little-
like, why? And then I was like so distracted by it. That's the only thing I could look at. So I couldn't pay attention to what was happening in the movie. And I don't know why they did that.
Oh no, that was a whole other level of oh no.
Like, on the one hand, I think it's interesting and on par for some of the zombies to have gotten to a point where they're like naked and
Oh yeah,
yeah,
easily.
but really,
Especially if it's a virus and not necessarily like they're not necessarily dead. They're just
Yeah.
infected.
yes,
It's not quite zombie-ish. I don't know. There's a slight distinction there.
yeah. 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 I have some questions that are more for the realism. But anyways, it's like, so it's like this movie made some very strange choices. In addition to that, the movie just felt like it was dragging on and on and on. And it just, and it's sad because this movie was in lines of a type of movie I would enjoy, where it's really focusing and honing in on the lore, it's honing in on the characters, showing a lot of their background, and, kind of explaining why they're making particular choices. But just, it was not, no, and not for me. So, I don't think I will ever watch it again, but who knows? Maybe in the near future or distant future, I might want to give it another try. But yeah, first watch, I did not enjoy it. And I mean, I will say like the first half, that's where like I was a lot more on board. But then like as it continued on, I'm like, okay, can we wrap this up, please? 'Cause I got things to do. Yeah, so that's what I got.
I give it a 6. It was all right. It was different than I expected,
Yeah.
for sure. It felt more tame, personally, than the last two. There didn't. I know that the infected were a problem, but it felt way more manageable. Despite the fact that they're the running kind.
Is it because they're like more spread out?
It's because they were more spread out. They were really mostly in packs,
Yeah.
but you could avoid them on the whole. Now, the alphas were a new problem
Yes.
that had developed. But, I mean, there weren't near as many of them. It wasn't as big of a problem. The people involved that weren't infected were better off, armed and secured and defended. They had rules in place that they would follow to the letter. They had societies. Everything seemed like, for the most part, even in quarantined areas, life was getting to a kind of normal.
Yeah.
And where they could still have a life around it. So it felt way more tame. There were fewer deaths in this movie than there were in the previous movies.
Yeah.
And honestly, the skull wrenching up the spine thing didn't really do anything either way for me. It honestly kind of reminded me of the Predator. Because he did that a lot. I still wonder how they were able to do that and not get any of the ribs or anything. Like, kind of interesting. But, what? The practical effects were decent. It was an interesting story, not at all what I expected.
Yes.
Not at all what I expected. I got questions that we'll get to in the realism scale and that I counted off for, but I do think it's interesting how they brought yet another potential avenue for a cure for the virus into play with the baby.
Yeah.
I also thought it was really interesting how a doctor, a non-combatant doctor, was able to survive so long on his own. And the things that he built, while disturbing, were kind of, in a way, morbidly beautiful.
Yeah.
And he had a very zen outlook on the whole thing. I feel like the main alpha, Samson, as he called him, that he would talk to was kind of his Wilson. If you know, you know. But it was interesting, and the fact that he hadn't completely gone bonkers, being essentially on his own for that long, and not dead.
Yes.
So there was that. The interactions between different characters, and the fact that the Doctor was Voldemort too. But he did a good job though. The interactions between the characters felt pretty genuine. I didn't really feel like anything was really forced. But there was just not a whole lot there.
Realism's a toughie. Because
I can tell you right now what the most unrealistic thing ever about the entire movie is.
What?
That the baby didn't cry once.
Yeah.
They had that baby for hours. Hours. And the baby didn't cry once. It's supposed to be a newborn. You know how often newborns cry? Over everything. Literally everything. You know why? Because they don't know any different. And they cry because they're hungry, and they're cold, and they're uncomfortable, and need to be changed. And want sleep, and want comfort. Want their mama. No. That is the quietest freaking baby ever, and I'm calling BS.
Well, and then also, like, the virus creating, like, different types of zombies, I thought was kind of...
That was cool, and I could see that kind of happening to an extent, because it is a virus. That's kind of what viruses do. So they mutate.
Yeah, but normally... I don't know. I don't completely buy it to that degree.
Yeah, I'm not saying to that degree necessarily, though he did say that they acted like steroids, but I feel like that would have been more muscle type, not necessarily grow into giant.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, like, I'm going to go with a 2.5.
Yeah, I went with a 2, so... Yeah, fair.
It's like, I feel like the most realistic part is, like, the humans, but, like, well...
We are a resilient species, and we will find a way.
I feel like, I know the dad was trying to get his son Spike to, like, practice and be more comfortable and stuff, but I feel like he should have practiced more on, like, animals or something to where, I don't know, he just seemed too hesitant, and the dad almost seemed too I mean, he kind of didn't have much of a choice, but he almost seemed like too trusting on like, come on, you gotta do this. You gotta do this.
There wasn't necessarily a need to push him that fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There really wasn't. Like, there were a bunch of other kids his age still in classes and everything and practicing. And there were plenty of adults that seemed like they knew what they were doing and had gone through this right as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It did seem a little early and kind of a movie's got a movie forceful point. I'll tell you another thing that is inaccurate is that they didn't bomb the entire place repeatedly and at regular intervals.
Yeah.
Just to completely clear it.
Fair. Like making a nuclear wasteland.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, let's start
not
over
necessarily
in 50
nuclear.
years.
Not necessarily nuclear wasteland, but, you know, some thermite here and there wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah.
But I can understand them. I can understand them quarantining the area for a certain amount of time to see if maybe they'll die out, because in the first two movies they're like they starve after a certain amount of time. They starve and they die. And then they're not a problem anymore. Now, obviously, you'd have to burn the corpses so that the virus doesn't spread any further from that. Like, there's no potential for further contagion from infected bodies. But, when you've quarantined for a good while and see that they are surviving and even thriving at a certain point, I think that's when you kind of call it. Because if they're starting to now develop a social hierarchy, next step is potentially tools and things. Like, they were bathing in the river. Like, it's going to be a problem soon. It's going to be a problem soon.
Yeah.
And it's only going to progress. So, you know, there's that. Also, in the second movie, they had a potential for a cure because there were kids that were descended from a woman that was highly resistant to it.
Yeah.
She was still infected, but it didn't take over her completely. But she was a carrier, essentially, for it. Mm-hmm. It did affect her a little bit. But the kid, the son specifically, had the potential to have that same gene. And they should have been able to potentially come up with a cure by testing with his blood or DNA. His antibodies, essentially.
Yeah.
So they mentioned none of that.
Yeah, they kind of, it seemed like they just kind of was like, we're going to start over, but yet continue the story in a weird way.
Yeah, they didn't even mention, oh, they tried this, but it didn't work, or they haven't found any potential, or we don't have the technology to be able to research it further, or, oh, the kid died in transit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Feel like that was a blind spot there. But they did bring a new potential source of a cure in at the end with the baby. Now, why the baby wouldn't be infected is beyond me, because she was likely conceived between two infected and grew in an infected mother. So I know the doctor was like, the placenta is a powerful thing, but you're getting a lot from the mom, and the placenta only filters so much. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yep.
That's mostly what I got. There's mostly just nitpicky things otherwise.
Yeah.
Those are the big things.
Like, I feel like this one's skippable.
It is.
It
was alright, but it felt lackluster compared to the other two.
Yes. Yeah, and just, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
Very weird. But thank you for joining us today, and we'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the movie. If you'd like to recommend a movie, game, or tea, you can leave us a comment or join our Discord server. And if you'd like to keep up to date with our content, you can find our link tree listed below.
If you'd like to support us monetarily, we have a Teespring and a PayPal donate button available. And again, you can find those mentioned linked below as well. Until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy.
Bye.